the men that I worked with had this very solid, unshakable belief that the way to grow women's sports was to cater to the average male. And for them, that meant listicles about who their volleyball crushes are. Pag may game recap, merong adjective about how the athlete looks na irrelevant naman, di ba? So parang the stunning Rachel Dakis scored 15 points. And there was also a very clear effort in marketing the sport. The looks of the athletes were heavily considered more than the talent.
You're listening to Drawing on Hope, where we talk to inspiring people who'll paint for us their vision of a better world. I'm Albert Orr, co-founder of Pushpin, a social impact creative agency that uses drawings and stories to help make things make sense. Our guest this episode is Siege Tantenko, founder of Go Hard Girls, which started in 2019 as the Philippines' first sports show focused on women athletes and has since grown into an independent media organization telling the stories of Filipina athletes to inspire excellence and leadership in women. As we join in on the conversation, Siege recounts her journey from sports writer and courtside reporter to an advocate for women in sports. Let's jump right in.
It's interesting because, we went into this conversation wanting to talk about hope. When I look back on how I started down this path, I didn't feel the hope yet. Back then, I felt a lot of pain and frustration because I was a young woman in a male dominated industry where the gender gap was so apparent, not just in how athletes were covered in the media, but also what I was experiencing as a woman working in the industry. And so my decision to advocate came from this frustration that I felt that there was a gap between what I knew was possible from having worked in other industries and other jobs where I saw women, you know, can accomplish so much and women are empowered and I had amazing women bosses to suddenly being in the sports industry and I felt like I was in the wrong century. So when I look back at my 20s, grabe, I was so unhappy back then. And doon nagsimula yung advocacy na parang, my gosh, I can't believe this is real. Tapos galit na galit lang ako. And my first stab at it was making an investigative article about how sexist coverage affects women's careers. And if you ask me back then, ang ano ko talaga is I can do all things through spite which strengthens me. And hanggang ngayon, I will make that joke. I will make that joke. Na parang so much of it was motivated by the men around me saying, no, this is just how it is. And me wanting to prove them wrong. And my boss telling me that, oh, when you hit a certain age you're gonna expire and you have to find another job, and I was like, I am gonna prove you wrong. And so much of it came from that space. It was not actually coming from a hopeful place. It was coming from a very angry place. But when I kind of peel back the layers, maybe there was a nugget of hope there. Right, just a simple hope that maybe this didn't have to be my reality, but it was just a little seed
Yeah.
of hope. It was definitely not the hope that I feel now or the hope that I've been able to nurture over the years. Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, we always make a distinction between, you know, anger that spurs you into action. When you see something that triggers your sense of injustice, you get upset, you get angry. It can be a really good spark for making you want to do something about it. But hope is what we end up latching on to as something that I'm more pulled towards rather than it pushes me. Anger kasi nakakapagod. Like at some point, it becomes really tiring to be angry all the time. But if I am clear about, hey, this is the alternative, the better option that I see instead, and I want to go there and I want to get there, I think that that can sustain us so much better. But I
Yeah.
want to backtrack to something that you said, Siege. I want to understand, what do you mean when you say, this is what you discovered being a woman in a male dominated industry? And I guess in part because of your efforts and the efforts of many others, how have things changed since then?
Right. Just so concretizing it, no. Um, so when I was starting out, 2015, when I became a courtside reporter, it was very common back then for articles about women athletes to only focus on who's beautiful. There was this prevailing mentality in sports media because often it's so tied, diba? Like the people running the websites are part of the conglomerate that is also the broadcaster. And so sports journalism is treated partly like journalism and partly like marketing to get people interested, right? I think at the corporate level. And so the men that I worked with had this very solid, unshakable belief that the way to grow women's sports was to cater to the average male. And for them, that meant listicles about who their volleyball crushes are. It was pag may game recap, merong adjective about how the athlete looks na irrelevant naman, 'di ba? So parang the stunning Rachel Dakis scored 15 points. Parang, mahalaga yun, ganon. And there was also a very clear effort na in marketing the sport, um, the looks of the athletes were heavily considered more than the talent. At that time, there were so many amazing women athletes who were not even getting interviewed, not getting photo shoots, even if they were the best player on the team, because they wouldn't be conforming to the look that was preferred by these male editors, right? So just thinking back, there were so many really good, like ito. Aliana Lim was the first Filipina basketball player to ever play as an import internationally. So yung mga pangarap gawin ni na Kai Soto, 3D Ravenna, Aliana did that in 2013. Pero there was barely ever any coverage of Aliana at the peak of her career because Aliana is, as she puts it, ma'am, hard lesbian ako. So, she is pogi. Pogi si Aliana. Ang pinaka-compliment na gusto niya pag sinasabi ng mga tao kamukha niya si Dwight Ramos. Pogi talaga si Aliana. But yun nga, you have someone as excellent as that, pero totally overlooked. Kasi the way that the networks would market was, sige nga, pakita nga tayo ng pretty girl para magka-interest yung mga boys to watch this sport. Which if you ask me is also, nakaka-insulto din naman yan sa intellect ng mga lalaki to think of it that way. Pero that's how they thought of it. And then as a woman working within the sports industry, I never felt my job was secure because my bosses would constantly talk about my weight, my skin, my face, my hair, rather than my output. So parang ang hirap naman, hihingi ako ng feedback about my report. Tapos ang feedback sa akin, yung hikaw mo mukhang malandi. Anong gagawin ko dun? Anong gagawin ko dun? Paano ako mag-a-adjust, 'di ba? So, sige ibahin ko hiko ko. Tapos hindi mo alam kung saan ka lulugar bilang babae kasi when I started out, I came from a journalism background and the other courtside reporters of my batch were commercial models and Star Magic artistas. And so they kept telling me I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't thin enough, I wasn't sexy enough. And I was like, why are these necessary? So I lost weight. I dyed my hair, I cut my hair, I wore contacts. I did so much because I wanted to have a fighting chance. It didn't feel like my work was enough. And yet the next year after mag-glow up ako at mag-makeover, ang feedback naman sa akin ay mukha kang malandi at hindi ka seseryosohin ng mga tao. And I'm like, saan ako lulugar? Ano ba? Ano ang gagawin ko? Ganon. So parang just imagine all of this happening and napaka-lonely. And I knew I wanted to cover women. And yet every time I raised it in the office. I don't think we should cover women this way. I think we should cover women this way. I think the audience can handle it. I think there's a better way to market women's sports. It was always, you're a kid, you don't know anything, and you're a girl, like the boys, like we've been here for such a long time, you don't know anything. So yeah, that was the starting point, and it was just such a lonely, lonely time. But to your point earlier, I think that loneliness, I was able to convert it into fire to start the advocacy, just that anger and that no way, I'm not taking this. But at the same time, it really has been finding hope that sustained me over the years. Um, and the more I lean into the hope, the more change I'm able to make, and the better I feel throughout the process.
What have been the signs of change or progress since then that you kind of latch on to and say, "Uy, okay, may progress naman. Things are changing for the better since you started your journey."
So I think right now, there's so much more media coverage of women athletes. Not just the most popular sports, but also like the underrated sports are gaining more attention, which is really exciting. The quality of the coverage has also changed. I remember a tipping point a few years ago where an article, which mentioned like something sexist that would have been just normal 10 years ago. Naggalit lahat ng tao sa Twitter and napilitan i-take down yung article. And I was like, oh, progress. Okay yan. So honestly, if I'll be real with you, I think the people who held those beliefs 10 years ago, I don't know how much they've actually changed. I certainly know a lot of men who still think that way and will say these things behind closed doors. But the culture has shifted enough that they can't say that in public. They can't put that in their articles. Um, upon fear of getting canceled, which I count that as progress, right? Another way I see progress is I see more women in leadership within sports, and this is allowing for changes, big and small, that affect the welfare of women and women athletes. So, for example, yung one of the people now in charge at Nike Philippines is Mariana Lopa, who was the managing director of Girls Got Game, an NGO that gives mobile sports camps to underprivileged girls. And she used to play basketball for Ateneo, and she was like a huge advocate talaga. And I see that now, and now she's in charge of connecting athletes to gear, right? And I see this diversity in athletes na nabibigyan ng mga sapatos, ng mga damit, 'di ba? And when I look at the programming of different sports brands now, like Titan has all of these efforts for women's basketball. They had the Sabrina Ionescu collaboration as a priority shoe for them last year. Nike, ang daming babae sa team ng Nike. Grabe, 'di ba? And I see the effects of that. Nakaka-excite. I see it happening. So like even if the toxic men that I grew up in the industry with are still there, parang they're becoming to use Lord of the Rings terminology, they are diminishing. Their power is diminishing. And they shall fade into they shall fade into the mist. I think policy level also, one big win that I want to celebrate is I came out in the industry where there was so much talk of ganyan talaga. And right now, I feel
Yeah.
that there's so much more collective power to actually challenge that. So last year, the UAAP changed their policy for referee pay. So they cut the salaries of referees of women's basketball games in order to give a raise to the referees of men's games. And 10 years ago, baka tinanggap lang yan ng mga tao. Pero um, grabe yung galit ng mga tao. And, sa Go Hard Girls, we ran a signature campaign against it, and hundreds of people signed up. And then, napansin kami ng Philippine Commission on Women. And then 1 month later, na roll back yung na-overturn yung policy ng UAAP, tapos binati kami ng Philippine Commission on Women sa part, sa leading the signature campaign. Diba? And I'm like, wow, wala to 10 years ago. Just as simple as that. Like, there are so much less people telling me, ganyan talaga, wala kang magagawa. And more people being a bit like, so ano pwede natin gawin? And that's so exciting.
So you have all these women or a diversity of athletes coming into the field. You have in the industry side with conglomerates more presence and of women leaders and even policies that are kind of leaning towards more support for women athletes. You've stuck through all of that, and I'm sure there's still more work to be done. What keeps you going then, Siege? Why is sports such a I guess why is that such a big deal for you? Where's that rooted?
Well, it's certainly not rooted in any physical ability of mine because I'm not good at playing sports. I was always like the last to be picked in PE. My parents tried so hard putting me in sports camps and then nothing ever worked. But I think what made me latch onto sports is like a microcosm of our society. Um, the same inequalities that we see play out in our wider world, they play out in sports. So the gender gap out there, it's a gender gap in here, right? And sports makes it so easy for people to understand. Like sports reflects culture at the same time sports shapes culture, which makes me excited. Like when Heidelin Diaz won our first gold medal at the Olympics, diba? That opened the conversation for people to be like, oh, should we be investing in women's sports more?
Oh,
Diba? Should we be investing in underrated sports more? Diba? And so that has like real that leads to real change, diba? So for as much as sports reflects the inequalities in our world, whenever we make progress in sports, it's such an easy parallel that helps people understand the inequalities outside of sports too. Diba? Now when I watch a video, like a TikTok video of yung have you seen those go the distance edits, and it's just I'm on my way, I can go the distance, and then it's just women's highlights being really good, women being really good. You don't have to be a sports fan to get that this is about women
yeah.
in general taking up space in the world, right? And that's what keeps me going. Na it's actually it was never just about sports.
Right. And with all this progress now that you're seeing, I'm sure there's still a lot of other challenges that come up. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Maybe you can share with us what Go Hard Girls is all about, how that came about, and where you're choosing, like which battlefronts you're choosing to be in.
Great question. Well, Go Hard Girl started in 2019 after I had finally been pushed out of the TV network when where I was working, because for years I was like, I'm gonna, like you can't make me quit. You can't make me quit. I'm gonna work so hard that you can't get rid of me, and I'm gonna use my space here to cover women's sports. So I was always getting into trouble with my editor. Na parang, why do you keep writing about these sports nobody cares about? And I was like, I don't. Bro, I'm helping your content plan. You have enough people covering basketball and volleyball. Like be glad that I'm covering karate, okay? You're welcome. So that was me trying to dig in and be like, no, I couldn't possibly leave this place because this is the biggest TV network in the Philippines and I refuse to leave. And I'm going to outlast them. But I was wrong because actually I was able to make more change outside than inside. But it took me getting finally pushed out for me to discover that. So I got pushed out. And then my high school teacher, Carl Javier, was also a friend of yours. He reached out to me and he had been working at a podcasting company. And he said, "Do you want to do like a podcast on sports, but we don't want it to be bros talking about the NBA. We want to do women's sports because that's the hole in the market. And I was like, dude, parang bumukas yung langit. I was like, wow, ano to? Ano yan? Sign me up. So I get there, and it was such a simple mission back then. Now I just want to tell the stories of women athletes. Ganun kasimple. Let's just produce episodes. As many of these athletes as underrated as they can get. And just they let me do it. I was interviewing, athletes based purely on who is deserving and underrated. And they didn't even pressure me to be like, hey, you should get more popular people on there. They didn't pressure me at all. They were just like, do what you want to do as a journalist. And I was like, hey, great. So I did it, right? But over the years, I realized the limitations. I think I had outgrown the initial position. Na it's not enough to be producing episodes about athletes the same way that it's not enough to just be writing articles about athletes. To make change, the imagination has to be bigger. Because if you're just writing articles or producing episodes, then you're limited to whoever reads them, right? But how do we make this into a fully functioning advocacy rather than just like, you know, my beat, basically? Um,
Yeah.
and that's when Go Hard Girls started moving in the direction of, okay, let's have like a brunch for our podcast listeners, which became, okay, let's have a workshop on how to cover sports without bias. And let's have, why don't we create a tote bag that says girls just want to have funding for sports? Why don't we do that, right? And as we kept growing, I started to realize, dude, actually the articles and the episodes might not even be the most important part of the equation, but rather it's creating community and creating an alternative space, physically and digitally, where people can feel seen, right? And represented, and where women sports fans can connect. And so that totally shifted it. And so last year, I was able to take Go Hard Girls from just a podcast and really fully commit to it being, okay, we're going to run this like a media company na talaga. And we're going to have events. We're going to create products, not merch, products. And we're going to expand our imagination. So last year, the biggest event we had last year, which made me so happy, was we had the Pinay Power Art exhibit. So we partnered with a Filipino
Mm.
artist, Juliana Samson. She created 12 illustrations on women's sports. Each illustration had an empowering slogan. And we displayed them alongside text about Filipina athletes who had excelled in that sport. So we put those up on museum panels. 100 people came. They could shop for small versions as postcards in our little museum gift shop. And while we were there, we had a live podcast recording with a para athlete, like a para power lifter, um, Kat Hernandez, who is a disability advocate and who hasn't gotten a lot of media coverage, right? And so, where Go Hard Girls, uh, our unique ambag is that this isn't just about producing an episode or covering someone anymore. It's being that connector
Yeah.
for all of these different things to come together. And that's where the hope is. That's what that when I think of what gives me hope, it's the seeing the girls who come to the events and be like, oh, this is my dream. Or seeing little girls with their families and they're like, you know, that's the hope. Yun. And it's when I meet younger girls in the industry, like early 20s, basically who I was 10 years ago when I started out. And they're still in male dominated workplaces, but at least they have us and they can come to us and we can have workshops and networking events for them where they can find community and other women.
I like this picture that you're painting, right? Of more women
Mm.
in the space or more empowered women in this space. But I also see that all throughout our conversation, there's many different aspects to it na pwede mo pang himay-himayin, from the athlete's experience to, um, I know recently you had the media workshop as well. So you were working with people who wanted to cover sports, right? How do you make sense of that community or ecosystem in a way where you're very clear what you say yes to, what do you say no to, what's worth pursuing for Go Hard Girls? Like, how do you make those kinds of choices without spreading yourself too thin?
Siguro it starts with the question of where am I uniquely placed and uniquely capable to make a unique difference. Um, right now, the women's sports media landscape has grown so much that there are more, beat reporters being assigned to cover women's sports. So that's a win, right? But it also means that the greatest impact I can make is not in announcing who won a medal. Like, I don't need to be like, oh, here's a poster, here's her picture, gold. There are now other people who can do that, right? So where am I uniquely placed? Where's Go Hard Girls uniquely placed? And so we get to choose our effort based on maximum impact. And I think the big shift is don't think of it as sports coverage. Um, because thinking of it in terms of sports coverage puts you in a mindset where, oh, I have to be at every single game and I have to announce every single result, and my metric of success is how many sports am I able to cover. But that's not the metric of success I want to chase, right? And so when I think of, for example, last month, what content decisions did we make? There were women's leagues happening. um but I don't need to be the one capturing their highlights. I don't need to be on the ground shooting their
Mhm.
highlights. That is not the best use of my budget. But on social media, we created a carousel amplifying the crowdfunding efforts of our national CrossFit team. And, we posted it, and they got back to us saying that a lot of people ended up donating to their crowdfund after we spread the word, diba? Um, a lot of people reported about how Heidelin Diaz got certified to teach in UP. What's our ambag? Our ambag is let's analyze how people criticized Heidelin after that, and how, there was also this very harsh, unnecessary criticism of Heidelin from some circles saying na hindi naman siya education graduate eh. Um, and we come in with analysis of, yeah, you would never ask this of a PBA player who wanted to teach PE. How much of this is because
Yeah,
she's a
yeah.
woman, right? Like, she's literally a gold medalist. She just wants to teach PE. Come on, guys, relax. So, that's where we come in. And so the decision of how we spend our effort and our time and our very limited our very limited personnel is based on impact and not based
Yeah.
on, I think, the traditional metrics that a media business is used to. But it's what works for us. Yon. Um yeah.
I think regardless of the cause or even the work that you choose to pursue, right? The thing that you said, where you have to identify where are you uniquely placed, what are you uniquely capable of, so that you can make that unique impactful contribution to the world. I think that's a question that's worth asking ourselves, so that we really have that sense of clarity about what to say yes to and what to say no to. Because I think that's the danger, especially if you're working in a space of advocacy, when you're coming from that emotional investment na talagang, oh, I really feel strongly about this. It can be so easy to just say yes to things, eh, because you can see how they're all connected, right? And you can see
Mm.
how, no, if I say no to this, but they have that need, di ba? May pangangailangan sila. So like, I need to be there also. That's the short
Yeah.
road to getting burned out, I think. And so I think that's really always worth asking, how do you decide?
Yeah, no, delikado talaga minsan ang advocacy work kasi parang merong thinking within advocacy circles na kailangan ibigay mo lahat. And the more you suffer for it, the more sacrifices you make, then the better of an advocate you are. My perspective on it is I have suffered enough. Tama na, yun na. Like I have already gone through so much in the early years of my career. Okay, if that's your metric, I have paid my dues, right? And I want my metric of success is how long can I keep doing this and what change can I make? And I can't make that change if I'm burnt out trying to chase down every single thing. And I can't make that change if I am broke, having thrown, having sacrificed too much to the point of impracticality, right? Tanggalin natin sa vocabulary natin yung mga words like panata. I mean, hindi to panata, friend. Hindi to panata. Hindi siya vocation. Hindi siya, pwedeng purpose mo siya. Pero this is not something that should burn you, right? It should be something that gives you hope and life, not something that takes from you, right? That's a much more
Yeah,
healthy
yeah.
way to look at it, diba? And for me, my foundation of how I understand hope is Lord of the Rings. And when you think of the decision that Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli have to make after maghiwalay si Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin were taken by the orcs, taking the hobbits to Isengard, right? They have to make a choice, right? Are you gonna try and chase both, right? Or are you going to trust na, maybe Frodo got that. Maybe Frodo got that. And let me just chase down these orcs, try to get them back, right? So you don't have to try and do everything. You don't have to spread yourself so thin. You go where you can make a difference. And at that point, I think, like the trio didn't even know if in making that decision, they could, makakarating ba si Frodo doon? Di nila alam. Basta alam nila na Frodo had to go do that on his own. And they're gonna do what they can, where they are, uniquely placed. They're good at hunting orcs. They're gonna hunt the orcs, right? And so maybe that's something that we can hold on to.
So yung geeky references natin this afternoon.
Yeah.
Let's go hunt orcs.
Yeah, let's go hunt orcs, man.
It's so easy to say though, but I think like and it's not a knock on people who come in clear-eyed, this is my vocation, panata ko to, right? But I guess that's really where discernment really is something that we need to take the time to do. Because there will always also be people who are clear-eyed, committed to this is my panata, and I'm perfectly fine with it. But then I like you said, you don't want to come into things romanticizing that this road is gonna be filled with heartache and sacrifice and magpapakamartir ka to the point na
Yeah.
you'll just burn yourself out and at the expense of the potential long-term contribution that you could have made to the cause that you've devoted yourself.
Yes.
The Lord of the Rings.
Definitely.
Yes. So in Pushpin and in drawing on Hope Siege, one of the ways naman that we try to wrap our heads around the idea of hope is that for hope to exist, there needs to be three things. One is a vivid picture of the better alternative, where you want to go. There needs to be a clear path. How do you get there? And then there needs to be a belief or a sense of agency na, hey, there's something I can do to get there. Right? Kaya ko to. I guess my big question for you is we've been talking about, hey, this is what it can look like, right? If things were better in the field of sports, particularly for women. Um, what's the pathway? What are the what are the key things that you think need to be accomplished so that you can actually rest easy and say, "Oy, good job. Nagawa ko. Parang nagawa na natin to, girls." Like what's that? What does that pathway look like, Scene?
So when you said path, I thought of lots of different paths converging into one destination.
Yeah.
Because it really can't be done by one person or by one
Yeah.
angle into the thing. There is an angle that media has to play. There's a role that
Yeah.
federations have to play, that people in leadership within governance institutions, diba? And the athletes themselves, right, undertaking their own journey of taking up space as an advocate and not just being like, yo, maglalaro lang ako, diba? So everyone has a role to play. I think when I imagine what does it look like, one is policy level. We need policies that protect and empower
Mm.
women athletes, also women working in the industry. Job security. So boring, right? Pero parang security of tenure in jobs. Because a lot of women like me, when I was younger, we were working on contract, like independent contractor contracts, which meant we can be let go at any time. We don't have benefits, and we are not the priority of HR. And so much space for abuse is created in that labor condition, right? Same with athletes. A lot of national athletes don't have contracts with their federations. It's all just like handshakes, right? Um, that has to change, right? There's also an aspect in media na how do media executives spend their money, right? Because coverage is the result of budgetary allocations. So we can't expect
Yeah.
na, oh, it's all just down to the decision of the editor. No, it's about what companies choose to resource, diba? So putting more money towards women's sports. Same thing with brands. More campaigns for women. And I think more money being given to women athletes and women sports media. Like I dream of a day where it isn't so hard to find a sponsor. Um, I do feel like it's improving so much versus when we first started, diba? Pero parang it still is an uphill climb, right? I'm glad we can climb it, but it's still uphill. Um, at a very basic level, safety. Like, I am so sick of every year a new batch of young courtside reporters or junior producers or yung mga women in entry level jobs within the sports industry come to me and are like, Ate, I'm so glad I found Go Hard Girls because this is what's been happening to me. I get those messages every year. And that's why for me, it's like, wow, grabe. It really can't stop at personal empowerment. Like, thank goodness I'm no longer where I used to be. Pero, wow, salot pa rin to, ah. Like, salot pa rin kayong mga dati kong boss, ha. Like, you're still doing this to young girls, right? And you're getting worse. Because sometimes girls will tell me, oh, ate, the guy who told you you'll expire at 30, he told me will expire at 25. And I'm like, grabe ka, you're like almost 60 and you're saying this to young girls. How dare you? Right? So, sobrang layo pa ng kailangan nating abutin.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it. I can imagine a future in which, oh my gosh, sana malapit na kayo mag-retire. Mag-retire na kayo mga dapat mag-retire. And let progressive minds take charge. Let the women who have been fighting in the shadows be the ones leading from the front. And let's see what that can unlock. Oh, so exciting to think of. Yun. But it has to be all of us.
Ganda. And then as you talk about these, like at the policy level, these are things that need changing. Athletes also need to change. Corporates that support them, right? Even media that portrays them. I imagine there's also a cultural shift that needs to happen. When you look at the audience side of things, right? I don't know if the term is the audience needs to be more enlightened, Siege, but I'm sure you also have some perspective on that, right? Like that
Yeah.
that there's also a shift that needs to happen there.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important because um again, sports is a microcosm, right? And the progression of values and ideals in wider society has a very big effect on the progression within the sports industry too. We still get comments on our social media from like men coming in our comments to, we'll be like celebrating a Filipina athlete, just a woman athlete. Like, yeah, like I don't understand sometimes how we'll be posting a compilation of really cool stuff that women athletes do. It's like, wow, our first World Cup goal, and then Heidelin Diaz lifting the weight, right? And all these women just their wins. And then you'll see a guy in the comments like, okay, make her play against a man then. And I'm just like, bro, it's 2026. Come on, man. Like there needs to be something that changes there. But I know what it's not going to change by me fighting him on the internet. So I don't even try. I don't even try to respond to those comments. I'll let the community fight him because that is what tends to happen. Even if the account doesn't respond, you'll see like women fight back in the comments, which is great. But also, the question is, where are our boys still getting these thoughts, right? And there's a lot to be said about the rise of conservative values, the manosphere, right? And this trend now among some circles to be like, well, I don't want to call myself a feminist, or like, I just want a soft life with a provider man. Like, girl, I get you like bread, but maybe rethink that, because if you imagine, you know giving up your career to stay at home to be an empowering experience, the ability for you to imagine that as an empowering experience is won by the feminists who said that you deserve equal treatment
Right.
and that housework is work. So don't go around knocking feminism just because you want to stay at home. Because your choice is valid, but your ability for that to be an empowering experience rather than a demoralizing one is purely down to the efforts of women fighting to say that you are equal and you are valuable, and that's what feminism really is, diba? And we need to be making change on that front in society, not just in sports, right? Now, until our society recognizes women as equally valuable and equally deserving, and
Yeah.
let's get away from gender roles, please. Until we get away from gender roles of, oh, this thing is for panlalaki and this is for pambabae, how do you think we're going to get away from some thinking like, oh,
Yeah.
basketball is for boys, volleyball is for girls? It's all related, right? So the more we break away from gender inequality in our real lives, the more we'll see it also in sports world.
At the risk of rabbit holing off into, I don't know, straying too far from what we want to talk about, though, I think that's where the current spheres for discourse natin, dun siya nagkukulang. Because like,
Mm,
if your primary mode of consumption is short form videos on TikTok or just images on a feed, it doesn't really lend itself well to nuance. Right? So you talk about, yan, my choice to be someone's wife or girlfriend is a choice. But you don't necessarily have to romanticize it. And even if you might not necessarily um, intend to romanticize it, by virtue of the choices you make, what you share online, about what you post about, has all these signals that you're sending out, right? That tell a specific kind of
yes.
story. In the same way na when you're choosing a path, for example, of being in a career and you post
Mm-mm.
about the work that you do, also says a certain story. Pero walang room kasi for the nuance and dialogue. Walang space where I can hold two truths and and have them both be valid, right? We were talking
Yeah.
earlier about the choice of living a life of pursuing an advocacy. You can pursue an advocacy and still make time for caring for yourself, right? Pwede naman yun. Pwede ka naman magpahinga on weekends. Pwede ka naman
Yeah.
kumita ng pera while pursuing a cause you care about, right?
Yeah.
I think
Parang,
it's that nuance that I'm trying to find even with conversations like this.
yeah. I wish there was more nuance where we can talk about the complexities of, being empowered as a woman while also, desiring to have a very strong family life and it being such an important foundation without it being the center of your whole universe while still being a central part of who you are, like there needs to be nuance around that. But because social media flattens it, what I tend to do is I tend to be very careful about what I show about my marriage, and what I show about my home life. Um, yeah, because I would much rather post about my career and my advocacy. But I do really love my husband and I love sharing what he does. But I like sharing what he does in relation to me, you know, in relation to supporting me and being an empowering husband and how he does that, as opposed to broadcasting that he's a man in finance because I don't want to add to the I'm looking for a man in finance discourse, right? Parang ganon. Yeah, I know that it's not something men think about as much as women because a man can put his wife on every single Instagram post that he has, and people will always still assume he has a job. Whereas if a woman does that, people will think she's a housewife.
That's really also the gap, no? The perception that we have when it's a woman who's talking about these things versus if I'm as a man, if I'm talking about these things, iba yung baggage and presumptions that come with it. And therefore, the perceptions and the optics, the conclusions that we make also change.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just a symptom of the same problem that we're trying to fix, diba? This idea that women are more than our families. We are more than nurturers. We are more than wives and daughters and mothers, diba? But that we have so much more to give to the world. I think that's what I love about sports, that it shows how powerful women are. It shows women as powerful, as strong, as capable. And my favorite sports are actually the ones which um, directly challenge notions of traditional femininity. Like I love combat sports. I love watching women beat people up, and I love I love sports where the women have, like ripped abs and they're big. I like watching weightlifting, mga ganon, because I think that's such a perfect illustration of how women are more than the boxes you put them in. And that's why I love those sports so much.
Because you're talking about women talaga in sports and like being strong. It reminded me of how this month, for International Women's Month, that the theme daw ng Philippine Commission on Women is to lead like a babaylan. And I wanted to check in with you, like what that might mean for you. What would leading like a babaylan look like for women, and particularly
Yeah.
for women in sports today, right?
When you first mentioned Babaylan to me, the thing that popped into my mind is the very fact that they used to be the center, but they were decentered. So I think leading like a Babaylan involves this reclaiming of that which was lost but was always valuable. But the perception shifted, right? And so reclaiming that space and taking up that space of women can be leaders, and women can be community builders, and women can drive decision making. That's what interests me about the Babaylan. And I don't mind that it's a pre-Hispanic example, because are our perceptions of masculine and femininity also not a product of the colonial experience, 'di ba? Na if you think about, why do Filipinos think basketball is for boys and volleyball is for girls, you'll see that's not true in other countries. Why is it that way in the Philippines? That's directly a product of our colonial experience, because America brought basketball here and they were teaching it to girls' schools first. And then the Catholic Church, hold over from the Spanish colonial period, was like, ay, nako, it's not appropriate. Teach that to the boys instead. And so they taught volleyball to the girls. So that's why the Philippines has this gendered notion. And so when I think of the Babaylan, it's like, yes, ang layo na natin sa pre-Hispanic, di ba? But what we can pull from that is, imbento lang naman tong mga boxes na binigay sa atin Imbento lang naman yung gender roles We have pre-existing history in which women were at the center, in which women can lead, and women were valued in communities. Can't we get back to that? Right? I would love to get back to this place where we weren't the underdogs, but we were just, embedded in the community without having to explain ourselves so much.
It's funny how the way you frame it, no, parang mas progressive, parang it sounds like mas progressive pala tayo before the colonials arrived, no? Parang,
dude, may divorce tayo dati before Spain came.
as we wrap up the conversation, Siege, what are some of the ways in which people can support the work that you're doing at Go Hard Girls? How can we learn more, and where can we check you out?
So the simplest way to support us is to follow us on social media. So we're on social media on Instagram at _Go Hard Girls. We're on TikTok and YouTube at Go Hard Girls PH, right? So it sounds so basic, but just following, subscribing, and sharing our content with other people helps amplify the messages, helps us break out of, parang the algorithmic prison that we all tend to find ourselves in. At a higher level, if the person listening to this, if they work for an institution, a foundation, a brand, diba? Maybe there's something we can make together. The thing, like we talked about earlier, diba? Hindi naman pwedeng panata-panata lang. And I hope, if your brand wants to get into women's sports, diba? Or talk to a women audience, diba? We're here, right? And let's find ways to work together.
Thanks so much for your time today. We had a great, wonderful, and insightful conversation with you. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Albert. Happy Women's Month, and thanks for being an ally.
And that's it for this episode of Drawing on Hope. A big thank you to Siege for sharing their story and vision for a better tomorrow. If you found today's conversation meaningful, share it with someone who could use a little hope and inspiration. And if you want to hear more stories of change makers working to build a better tomorrow, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps others find the show. Drawing on Hope is a podcast by Pushpin, a social impact design agency that uses drawings and stories to help make things make sense. Follow us at Pushpin Visuals on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or visit www.pushpinvisuals.com. As always, keep drawing on hope, keep building a better world, and we'll see you next time.